right, everybody, welcome back here after 2 weeks to the Walk-Off Podcast with the principal, Jordan Ellsworth, and myself, Austin Bradley. We're glad to be back after another 2-week hiatus. I promise you guys, this will be a weekly thing. I know we started out about 6 weeks ago. We've had one every other week. It seems like something just gets in the way right now. Every time we go to do one of these things, I will say the last 2 times have been on me, but it's been a pretty big something. But hopefully we are ready to roll and ready to be rolling this out for you guys every week. We got a lot to cover. We're gonna hop right into it. You know, as I sit back and I look at all that's going on in the world of baseball and all of Major League Baseball, something feels weird. It almost feels backwards. The Pittsburgh Pirates are in first place in the NL Central. That's not something that I thought I would be saying on May 11th. Now, you know, they've lost some ground. I think they're back to being only about 4 games over 500. At one point, they were 12 games over 500. Not something you'd see. I think even crazier than that, the Yankees are in last place in the American League East, a team that a lot of people expected to be a World Series contender. And now we're just a month in, but you definitely did not expect to be saying here on May 11th, saying that the New York Yankees are in last place. You look at their injured players, you would understand why. Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge haven't been playing, and Harrison Bader just returned. Some of their big pitching accusations, Carlos Rodon being one of them, hasn't even got to pitch. When you look at the standings and you see things like that, the Yankees are in last place. The Cardinals are in last place, while the Red Sox are in first place in the Central. And not the Red Sox, the Pirates are in first place in the Central, and the Red Sox are in second place, just a couple games back in the American League East. What are your thoughts? Kind of what's going on? Why is there so much parity right now through the first month and a week or so?
You know, I don't know. I mean, you're right. It is an atypical year. That's why they don't play the game on paper. If you would have asked us back on March 30th, or even our very first show, everything was the opposite. I just think you got some teams that have just gotten off to a slow start, like the Yankees, for example. They have too much talent to be in last place, and I don't think that that's where they're going to finish. I haven't been able to follow them as much here lately. I've been so busy, but I can tell you about the Cardinals. I mean, they're a mystery. It's like when they pitch, they don't hit. When they hit, they don't pitch. When they are in a competitive game, the bullpen gives it up. And these are all guys that have performed great for the Cardinals the last couple of years. Bullpen, for example, Helsley, was phenomenal last year. Hasn't pitched well. Gallegos, although he pitched good the other night, closed the game down. For whatever reason, just talking about the Cardinals, I was watching them the most. For what reason, they just haven't played well. But the last 3 out of 4 games have been pretty good. Now they're going to have a tough time in Boston. I think as a Cardinal fan myself, and I think for other Cardinal fans, if they go and lose 2 out of 3 or get swept, I think you can't start freaking out again, because that's a tough place to play. But if they can go on there and win a couple, then I think you're starting to see them turning around a little bit. The rest of the division has come back down to earth. I think you're seeing the true Pittsburgh Pirates right now. I really thought that would happen. Since they were 20-8 and had the second best record, I think they've lost 11 of 12.
Right.
So, and the Brewers are right there on the same track, either 10 out of 11, 10 out of 12, something like that. So they certainly haven't put the Cardinals away. I mean, you got about, I guess you still got about 5 months to for them to catch up. So I think the Brewers and Pirates missed their opportunity to put the Cardinals away, honestly, with as bad as they played early. And then like the AL East, you mentioned the Yankees. That division is just tough. I mean, the Yankees got a lot of talent, but all 5 teams are good, and the Yankees could end up in last place with a winning record and miss the playoffs. That's just how it is this year in the AL East. I mean, if you're a Yankee fan, I don't know what else you could do. Yeah, they could play a little bit better, but it's just going to be tough. It's just going to be one of those years where you might be 88-74 or 90-72 and not get in the playoffs in the AL East. So,
yeah, I think so. I think the worst team in the AL East could very well potentially be better than the best team in the NL Central. That's just sometimes how it shakes out. You look at I said the Red Sox were in second. They've now fallen to third behind the Baltimore Orioles, who are 24-13. But the Yankees are missing some very, very key pieces. Like I said, Giancarlo Stanton, Frankie Montas, not Lou Trevino. They are missing him. Oswaldo Pereira. They just got Harrison Bader back, who, by the way, you talk about a former Cardinal that has went to somewhere else and been consistent and been reliable every game he's played in, even though he has started his tenure as a Yankee, kind of on and off the injured list. That would be Harrison Bader. For the NL Central, I think you're right. I think the balloon world that the Pittsburgh Pirates and their fans were flying around in has been popped. I think you're going to see a pretty fast fall from grace. But the thing is, I still think, Jordan, that the Cubs are dangerous. I still think that they are dangerous. I think that if the Cardinals' biggest threat in the division as they're trying to claw back is not the Milwaukee Brewers. It's the Chicago Cubs. I mean, they put 10 runs on them last night. They've found Cody Bellinger, who has kind of found himself a little bit. That change in scenery has helped him, as well as the young talent they have there. And I'm not a Cubs fan. You know me. I'm not a Cubs guy at all. I'm Cardinals for life. But I think the biggest threat to the Cardinals, and yes, I know that they're 12 games below 500, and people are like, what are you talking about? But I also know that it's May 11th. They play until October 1st. There's a long, long ways to go. But I think that the biggest threat is not the Pirates and the Brewers. I still think it's the Cubs.
Yeah, they played well. They got a lot of guys on their roster who have performed in the past, but not recently. And like I said, Bellinger's kind of found himself. He's a guy I kind of wish Cardinals would have took a flyer on. I mean, I think the Cubs only paid him $8 million, something like that. And because we could have used him for sure. And then I think a lot of people didn't talk about signing Dansby Swanson. I mean, think about where the Cardinals might be if Swanson was playing short for them and Edman was at second, or Donovan's at second, or Edmonds at second, Donovan's in the outfield. I think some of those errors that we've been seeing, you may not seen as many, and maybe the record's a little bit different. So that's an underrated pickup in my view for the Cubs. Marcus Stroman has pitched well for them. I was impressed with their bullpen the other night, especially, Assad, who pitched, 3 1/3, 3 2/3. We finally got him in that top of the ninth, but I mean, they got a good team. I think they're going to be hard to, and kind of like the Cardinals. I wonder about their starting staff. Stroman's really good. I know they've had, was it Steele?
Justin Steele has been the best pitcher in the National League.
So if they keep that up, it may not matter. I mean, they may be they may make it very tough for the Cardinals to come back. But bottom line is, Cardinals have dug a big enough hole. It's going to take a couple months to dig out of it. If they're 500 by mid-June, then I'll be happy. I think, I'd like it to be quicker. I'd love for them to go on a 15-game winning streak and it all be over. But I think it's going to take till mid-June. If they're 500 by that time, then I think we're going to start to hear the baseball world talking about, look out for the Cardinals. So, but, if we mid-June and they're 10 games under, then it might be a lost year. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals are kind of in a tough position. We'll kind of stick on them for a minute because they're a team that a lot of people are talking about. And some people are going to get on us and they're going to be like, oh, you guys are homering. But this is not a team that we're the only ones talking about. Everybody is confused and puzzled about what's going on with the Cardinals. They currently sit at 13-25, 12 games below 500, but only 8 games out of the division, which is not that many, especially in May. They've won 3 of their last 4. They did beat the Tigers. They took 2 of 3 at Wrigley Field. Are they actually any better than what they were a week ago? Are they playing any better? The Detroit Tigers are not bad. They're hanging around in that AL Central, which is a horrible division. I don't know. They are so confusing to me because, like you said, when they hit, they don't pitch. When they pitch, they don't hit. Sometimes they decide that they're not going to do either, and they get a good relief, a good start from a guy like Montgomery, and then the bullpen gives up 5 runs, or they take a 3-run lead into the 9th inning, and Ryan Helsley, who was lights out last year, gives up 3 runs and you lose. It just seems like at this point in the season, even though they've won 3 of their last 4, it just feels like they're finding a way to lose.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of encouraging signs. If you go back, I don't know, probably the last week of April till now, starting pitching's been better. I wouldn't call it 10 times better. You still had a bad start last time. Freddie started against the Angels. He was a little bit better against the Cubs. Montgomery had a clunker, which I kind of knew that was coming because he's pitched so well against the Cubs. So starting pitching is trending up. I think Adam Wainwright's going to help that. Yeah, he pitched well the other day, except for that 5th inning where he should have had to strike him out, throw him out, and the ump just blew it. That was definitely a strike him out, throw him out. If they get that play, then they probably win that game. And then, so I've seen some better signs. Bullpen's been a little bit better. They were better in the Cubs series. So anytime your pitching is trending upward, even if it's slowly, that's a good sign. So I'm really looking forward to this Boston series. I think even if they were to lose 2 out of 3, and if they win 2 out of 3, that'd be great. But if they pitch well, I think you're starting to see them come out of it if they continue to pitch well. Offense is starting to come around a little bit. But, time will tell. It's not going to get any easier. They got to go to Boston this weekend. They come home for the Brewers. They got 4 with the Dodgers after that. So that's why I just think it's if they're 500 by mid-June, then I'll feel great about where they're at. And that'll probably even give them a chance to still win the division. But it's not going to get any easier anytime soon.
I completely agree with that. We'll stick with the Cardinals for 2 more things. There's been a lot of buzz around them as far as Wilson Contreras goes. Basically, in my opinion, what happened is the Cardinals kind of threw him under the bus, kind of blamed some of their woes on him, and not the starting pitching. They signed him for 80, is it $87.5 million, 5 years? It's either 85.7 or 87.5. Either way, when you get up in money that big, the difference in that doesn't matter too much. It's a decent sized contract. They've moved him to the outfield, and he's going to designate hit. I understand how many times in baseball have we seen a situation where a player gets injured and fans are like, we don't really know, does he really have lower back tightness, or is he just kind of slumping? I think there are ways that they can go about moving him to designated hitter, at least for a time, without basically outing him and saying that it's bad framing or it's bad pitch calling. I don't like it. I don't like that that's kind of what we're doing now. And I think it's a double standard a little bit. I don't think, Nolan Arenado went through a stretch where he was like 5 for 50 and nobody was saying anything about him. You wouldn't do it to Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like the way it was handled.
Yeah, they could have handled a little bit better. As far as Goldie and Arenado, I think they've kind of gained that, that leeway with what they've done over their career. Wilson Contreras has handled it like a champ. And he had a huge series against the Cubs, which was awesome. He embraced it. So I think there's no worries there. You can tell he's a great teammate. You can tell when they won those couple games that he's got a good relationship with his teammates just by their reactions when they were shaking hands and things after the game. They definitely could have handled it better. Not that they should have lied and said, okay, well, we're moving to DH because he's nursing I don't know, a sore hamstring or something, or a sore knee or something like that. But they could have come up with something. But it's so hard today in today's media. There's no telling where it got started. I know they came out public. They finally came out publicly and kind of said some stuff, which I think was a mistake. But they signed him to the contract, and I can tell you one thing: Cardinal fans are like any other fans. Whether he's DHing or catching, if he's producing and he hits in the DH spot the rest of the year, and we're winning, it ain't gonna matter, But I do agree with you. I think he needs to catch. That's what he was signed for. I don't think he's done a bad job at all. I think a lot of it has to do with execution. If the pitchers are questioning some calls on some pitches, then why aren't they changing the call on their pitch count? Why aren't they changing it? In the old days, they just shake the guy off. You're the pitcher. You throw what you want to throw,
Right.
So I didn't really like that. If some of our pitchers, whether it was Flaherty, whether it was Montgomery, I'm just throwing their names out there. I'm not saying I know who it was or guessing. It could have been any of our pitching staff. But why throw a pitch if you're not convicted about it? Call him out to the mound, have a meeting. Say, hey, I don't want to throw that pitch, or like I said, shake him off. Or I know they use pitch count, change the call.
Right.
I think that was just an excuse from some of the pitchers. And now, if the Cardinals organization feels like he needs some work, and they're trying to teach him some things, then it's a little different. I almost wish Yachty was around one more year, and Yachty was catching a couple games a week, maybe DHing here and there, and Contreras was catching the rest of the games, and DHing when Molina was catching, because I think you would see a big difference. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But I do agree with you. I know I'm rambling here, but I'll finish up real quick. I do agree with you. I think eventually he's got to catch. So figure it out. Pitchers need to figure it out. It's not, you can't put it all on one guy. They should have executed some pitches. And if you didn't want to throw a pitch, then change it. Don't put it all on Contreras, So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I can get behind all of that. When we're talking about pitchers, we'll move on to the New York Mets. They signed two I guess they didn't sign Max Scherzer. They had him last year, but they did sign Justin Verlander. Their two big pitchers have combined for a whopping 7 starts. Of course, Verlander was on the IL for a little while, and Max Scherzer just saw himself over to the IL yesterday after coming back, he was going to come back from a suspension due to sticky stuff. Some people are speculating there that maybe he's not injured. Maybe he's got to learn how to pitch without sticky stuff. I think it's bullcrap. I think he's probably got something going on. I don't think this is something where he doesn't have a track record of doing stuff like this. And honestly seems to be very offended whenever an umpire even as much as checks him for sticky stuff. I think he's a man of integrity to a point where he's not going to do that. When you sign a player like that, and you got guys like Jose Quintana, who you also signed, who will be on the IL for really, I believe, until late August to September, if he gets to come back at all. What does that do to your club? I'm going to look just real quick and see where the Mets sit in the NL East. Just for some reference, they sit in fourth place at 18-20. Not at all having the year that they expected to have. It's tough for me because like Verlander and Scherzer both are getting up there. They're both getting up there. They're both not. Neither one of them are probably in the prime of their life, even though their numbers say that they are when they are pitching. But is it time, maybe especially for Verlander, to maybe scale back? You know, he's not starting every 5 days. Maybe he's starting every 10, just to try to keep him healthy. That way, maybe he can pitch extended periods of time in the postseason if you get there, because ultimately that's what Mets fans, and I believe Andy Cohen and all of the owners and managers and things like that at the Mets, that's what their goal is, to win a World Series.
Yeah. Mets fans are, they can get crazy at times too, which, I mean, let's face it, Cardinals fans have gotten kind of crazy. We've won so much since 2000 that it's not the same fan base, but I think the Mets the fan base has got to relax. And you chalk it up to injury. I mean, that's the risk you take when you sign these older guys. You know that there's a chance that they could get hurt. If they get healthy and they start rolling, then, I mean, they're a team that can finish 25, 30 games over 500. I still think they have a chance. Their offense is a little suspect in spots. Nemo's having a good year. Of course, Pete Alonso, you got Lindor. So they got some good pieces there. But they haven't done themselves any favor with their farm system. They've made trades. But when you're Steve Cohen, I mean, you can just keep throwing money at it, I guess, Yeah. They're going to be, whoever's available at the deadline, they're going to be in on them. It would not surprise me one bit if they get another big time starter at the deadline and a big bat. It's not going to surprise me, and it could be multiple bats, or it could be multiple arms. It would not surprise me one bit. So I think they just got to be patient, because they did play well early. I mean, they were keeping up with the Braves, early in the season, 5, 6, 7 games over 500. But then the last 2 weeks, they really kind of fell off, and I think it's just kind of due to injury. But that's the risk you take. Quintana, 34, 35 years old. Max Scherzer's 38, 39 almost. I know Verlander's over 40.
He's 42.
42, yeah. So, I mean, I think with the way the guys have been injured, if you can find spots to rest them, and maybe you give them an extra day, maybe you give them a couple extra days. Maybe if they pitched on a Sunday, and you got a day off. There's a couple weeks on everybody's schedule where they got during the season where they got 2 days off. Those are spots where they can really stretch them out. If they pitch on a Sunday and then they got 2 days off the next week. I mean, you could really stretch that out. So I look to see the Mets using that to their advantage, try to get them guys healthy and ready for the postseason. So it wouldn't surprise me if both of them only finish with about, 22, 25 starts.
Yeah,
Maybe less if they're injured longer.
I completely agree with that. Sorry, I'm wiping sweat out of my eyes. It's very hot where I'm at. So I think we got 2 more things here. We got one thing that's going to take a minute. If I had to ask you, and I'll give you mine. We're over a month into the season. Of course, there's still 5 months to go. We know that. We know there's a while to go. But if you could sit back and you could think, okay, what is the biggest takeaway? What's the biggest thing that you can take away from what we've seen this season so far? What would that be?
I mean, this may be a lot of people's answers, but I mean, you gotta give a shout out to Tampa Bay Rays. How they are winning, and of course, they're not going to win at this pace. I mean, if you calculate this pace out for the rest of the year, I'm sure that they're on pace to win 130 something games. So obviously, I mean, they're going to fall off of that. Okay. But how they keep doing this year after year with a ballpark that sucks, with a fan base that doesn't come out unless they're in the postseason. I mean, they've had decent attendance. I've seen some games, some highlights where they've got more fans than usual, which we'll talk about their ballpark situation here in a minute, if we have time. But that's the biggest takeaway for me is I knew that they were going to be good. I think kind of what bothers me about it is we had one of their best hitters. And we, in Rosarina, we could definitely use him. The Rangers have Adolis Garcia, who's another one that we had. We meaning the Cardinals. So that's my biggest takeaway, and it has a little bit of a sting to it as well because their best hitter was a Cardinal, and now he's not. So kind of bitter about that, but what are you going to do? Liberatore was the hot arm at the time, and Rosarina wasn't really doing anything. But that's been kind of Cardinals' luck. They trade an outfielder, and he becomes an all-star. So that's my biggest takeaway. The Pirates played well for a long time, but I mean, golly, they fell off. I know they're still 3 or 4 games over 500, but you can't really throw them in the conversation anymore as like one of the main stories of the year because of how they played the last 2 weeks. So the Rays are my pick. Yeah,
I think my biggest takeaway just from what I've seen, and it goes back into the offseason, is Major League Baseball as an organization is acknowledging and trying to fix the wrong issues. Okay, when you see things, and I'm going to tell you something that bothers me as somebody that I have dear friends that are very, very, very big Oakland Athletics fans. It bugs the crap out of me that they are leaving Oakland. I think that is a franchise, and I'm not saying that things have been ran right there, but that's a very historic franchise. They're a franchise that when you look back through the history of baseball, the Oakland Athletics being good is good for Major League Baseball. I don't think it's necessary for them to move to Vegas, of all freaking places, as if Vegas needs more. I don't think the revenue is going to be much better because the thing is with Oakland, the problem that Oakland has is they backed themselves into a corner when they started blaming the fans. But the thing is that you have to realize as baseball fans, whenever it's so difficult for Major League Baseball to be accessible, then you're not because I'm going to tell you, Jordan, if I was even as a Cardinals fan, and let me ask you this, if you couldn't find the Cardinals to watch them play on TV, to know what you are going to see, would you pay $150, $200 to go out to a baseball game? And just because the tickets aren't $100, $150, $200, gas is expensive, food's expensive, concessions are expensive. Sometimes the kids want merchandise and that's expensive. I mean, if you couldn't find them on your TV to see it, again, to at least see what they're looking like, would you spend your hard-earned money that you go to work for and you earn every day to pay that much money to go to a baseball game?
Well, I mean, what do you mean, like go to the Coliseum and watch the A's if I'm an A's fan? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a multi-layer situation. I think one, the Oakland Athletics ownership is fed up with the city of Oakland. Okay. And the fans are the ones that are suffering. Okay. City of Oakland, it's obvious that they don't want to help fund a new ballpark in any type of capacity, which there's a thing they call private public funding, where there's a lot of private funding, but then there's, public funding that goes into certain things. And I'm not an expert on that. But they could have done this 20 years ago. I've been following the Oakland A's ballpark situation for almost 20. They had renderings of a park called Cisco Ballpark, which Cisco's a communications company out of California. You can probably still find it on Google. I mean, it would be an unbelievable ballpark. Couldn't get it built. They went after a spot called Jack London Square. Couldn't reach a deal there with the city. They talked about tearing down the Coliseum and building a new stadium there on that site. And now they were so close to hopefully building a ballpark next year or two in a place called Howard Tournament, which would be basically a waterfront ballpark like San Francisco has. And now the city's kind of held that up. And it's just unfortunate for the fans because I think they've been kind of thrown under the bus. They don't have a good place to go to watch the A's. The management has traded away every good piece that they've had. If you go back 10 years ago, they won the division 3 years in a row. And if it wasn't for the Tigers, they probably would have played for a World Series when they had Sonny Gray and on their pitching staff. And I'm trying to think of some other guys they had at the time. I'm drawing blanks right now. But even then, I mean, they were good and playing in a dump, but every couple of years they would trade a guy off. They'd trade Sonny Gray off. They would trade a Frankie Montas. They would trade a Sean Manaea, or they would trade they've traded Sean Murphy. They've traded, all these guys. And
I have a graphic right here for you.
Yeah.
That I actually just found the other day of players they traded off. This is a World Series caliber team that I'm about to read off. Starling Marte, Marcus Semien,
yes,
Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, Max Muncy, Mark Canha, Joey Wendell, and Trace Thompson.
Josh Donaldson. Traded Josh Donaldson to the Blue Jays, that stretch that I was just talking about, 12, 13, and 14. He was a part of that. They traded him to Toronto. So the management has had a plan in place that they went after a ballpark, and I think the last couple of years they've just said, okay, enough's enough, and we're going to trade off every asset that we have. We're going to lower our payroll, and we're going to start looking for a ballpark elsewhere. And in ways I can't blame them, because why the city of Oakland doesn't want a new ballpark for this team, I have no idea. And maybe there's more to the story. Maybe there's more on the other side with the A's, maybe wanting to go elsewhere. But you're right about Vegas. I've seen some renderings of the ballpark that they would build in Vegas, and it's awesome. But Vegas is going to be one of those places, kind of like Florida. If you don't win, they're not going to come. Marlins have an unbelievable stadium. I haven't been there yet, but I mean, it's beautiful. But nobody comes because it's Florida. There's other stuff to do. and they're not any good, and so they're not going to show up. And I think Vegas will be the same way if they're not good. So if the A's are going to go to Vegas, they better be ready to spend some money, because the fans are not going to come like they did in Oakland. If they're not any good, they're not spending any money.
So staying on that for just a second, I want to know, and I don't know what the rules and the regulations are. Maybe you do. The Oakland Athletics AAA affiliate is located in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Aviators, will they move? Are they allowed to be in the same city? I mean, I would think that would make things a lot easier if you're calling a guy up. You just walk across the street. Probably not exactly, but
I don't know what the exact rules are. I don't think there's any in place. I really don't think that. I really think if they choose to do that, they can. I don't think there's any rules against that. In fact, they just built a new AAA ballpark. So I think the Aviators would probably stay there, which would kind of be a weird dynamic. But there are a lot of people out there that like minor league baseball as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that would.
I enjoy minor league baseball.
Yeah, that like watching the prospects. I like it too. I mean, I've been to Memphis a bunch. It's fun to watch those guys that are about to get called up. So I don't know how that part would work out, but I mean, everything that I'm reading is they're headed to Vegas. There's really no stopping it. And it's unfortunate for the fans of Oakland. They've lost the Raiders. And now it looks like they're losing the Athletics.
They lost the Golden State Warriors too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. I mean, they're close enough, but they still built their new arena in San Francisco. So that's just unfortunate. But I was I say I was an A's fan growing up, but I mean, used to in JC's Penney catalog, you could buy uniforms for kids, bat gloves, the whole 9 yards. Well, for whatever reason, the Cardinals were never in there. They had 5 or 6 teams. It would be like the Yankees, the White Sox, Athletics, Cubs, really kind of the top teams at the time. And so I remember for one Christmas, I got Oakland Athletics uniform. I got the batting gloves. I got the bat. I got the helmet. My mom probably still has the helmet somewhere, and I can just remember, watching games like when they were in the playoffs with McGuire and Canseco, and so it's gonna be sad, even for me as a baseball fan, because I remember all that, and I always thought it was cool, the green and gold uniforms, which I think if they move to Vegas, I don't think that's really going to change. I don't see how you could change the colors. They're so iconic.
Yeah.
But there's not a good answer. I don't know whose fault it is, but I do agree with you. The fans are getting crapped on.
Yeah, I think so. I think in another place that I was trying to go with that is, not just a fan of the Oakland Athletics, but I don't care if you're a Mets fan, a Yankees fan, Cardinals fan, Cubs fan, Athletics fan, whatever. Another big issue that's not even being discussed right now is the whole blackout. They want to talk about growing the game. They want to grow the game. They want to make it better and all of this stuff. And what I was trying to point to is, if I'm a fan of the Cardinals, or I'm a fan of the Cubs or the Royals or whatever, but I can't watch them on my TV. If I say I live out of their zone, which, believe it or not, St. Louis is out of their zone. If you go to St. Louis, you will not pick up Valley Sports Midwest on your DirecTV subscription. Believe me, I've been there. I've tried it. It is not available. If I can't find them on my TV to know what I'm going to watch, I'm not going to go watch them in person. You know why? Because I'm not going to care. Not that I don't care, but because I have no way to base it on. And they take down all these illegal streams, which they should. Don't get me wrong. I'm not endorsing illegally streaming ball games or movies or anything like that. But I think in order to grow the game the way that Rob Manfred says, let's grow the game, they need to eliminate blackouts. If it's 11:30 at night and I want to get on MLB TV, or I want to get on whatever and watch the Dodgers play the Padres, well, by golly, if I pay for this subscription, then that's what I ought to be able to do. And
Yeah,
I
I think there's a little bit of mix up there. Like, let's take MLB.TV. There's a lot of layers to this. So if you get MLB.TV, anybody that lives in Missouri is not going to be able to watch live St. Louis or Kansas City.
Right.
Until after the broadcast. Then you can watch it anytime you want. But, I mean, who wants to do that? Unless you watch the game before and then you just want to watch again because they won and maybe Goldschmidt hit 3 home runs or something like that. But so there's that problem. And the reason they have that problem is because what's screwing up baseball from doing anything is the regional sports networks.
Yep.
The teams have signed these big contracts with regional sports networks, which means they own the broadcasting rights to the Cardinals. Now, the other problem with that is 10 years ago, it wasn't a problem because Dish had, which was Fox Sports Net back then, which is Bally now. DirecTV had it. Your local cable companies had it. It wasn't a problem. Well, now you have YouTube TV that doesn't have them. You have Dish that does not have them. You have, there's a few others that don't have them. DirecTV Stream does. Fubo TV has them. But you're really limited on your options. Now, if you're in a place with great internet and you can stream and you got DirecTV Stream, like I have, then you can get them. But that's the problem they have. And baseball is going to have to figure out a way to come up with a deal with these regional sports networks. They're either going to have to buy them out and just to eliminate the blackouts, or they're going to have to come up with some kind of fee, which is only going to make the subscription on MLB.TV higher, but they're going to have to come up with something that either the regional sports networks can get back on all the platforms, or you can get it without a blackout on MLB.TV. And until they do that, it's not going to happen. So that's the problem.
No, I completely agree. I think that the puzzling thing to me is, you get NBA League Pass or you get NFL Red Zone or whatever. An NBA League Pass, there are some teams that are on regional sports networks, but you can watch them still.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because I'm in Missouri and Missouri don't have teams, so we can watch whatever. But regardless, I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed. I think that the issues that are being addressed aren't necessarily the right ones. Nobody really cared about making the bases bigger. They care about being able to watch their favorite teams. And that's another conversation for another day. We've been on here for quite a little bit. There's one more thing I want to get to before we hop off. We're going to kind of do something this year once a month at the end of the month, either the last episode of the month or the first episode of the month. We are going to look back on the previous. So for this, we're going to do April, our all April MLB team. At the end of May, we'll either do All-May, or at the beginning of June, we'll do All-May. Either way, once a month, we'll have our all April, May, June, July, August, September team. And then we'll do all postseason once the World Series wraps up in November. To me, I really think that we've been fortunate where, other than like one or two positions, it's been pretty cut and dry as far as who's performing the best at those positions. I'll go through my all MLB team to start. If you want to put yours together, if you don't have it, or if you have it together. My starting pitcher is Justin Steele. I think he's been the best pitcher in the National League and probably in the top 2 or 3 in all of baseball for a reliever. And when I say, I'm going to say relief pitcher and a closer, reliever is like anybody that's not a closer. That doesn't start, but is not a closer. So Zach Eflin, the Tampa Bay Rays. My closing pitcher is Emmanuel Clase. He's been lights out as usual. A guy that was supposed to give him a run for his money, a Cardinal, Ryan Helsley, has kind of struggled this year a little bit at times. The best catcher in baseball right now is Sean Murphy. I think if it's not Sean Murphy, it's Adley Rutschman, but it's Sean Murphy. Some people think that the Cardinals look silly for not trading for him instead of signing Wilson Contreras. The best first
Yeah, but
baseman.
I don't think he was probably ever available, honestly. I mean, if
Yeah, I
they're
don't know.
the Orioles, why would you? That would be stupid.
Not Adley, Sean Murphy, bud.
Oh, Sean Murphy. I'm sorry. I thought you said that's my fault. I thought you were talking about Richmond still.
No. I think the best first baseman in baseball through a month was Pete Alonso. Goldschmidt has kind of caught up with him, I believe, kind of through the beginning of May. Definitely something to keep your eye on. I mean, they a lot of people thought they competed for the NL MVP last year. And ultimately Pete Alonso was left out of that top three, but that's a debate for last year. I think the best second baseman in baseball is Luis Arias. He has been a great pickup for the Miami Marlins, helping them out. No doubt about it that Matt Chapman is the best third baseman right now, maybe the best player in baseball. He has been red hot. His teammate, Bo Bichette, gets the nod for me for all MLB shortstop. In the outfield, I have Jordan Alvarez, Brandon Marsh, and Ronald Acuna Jr. as my outfielders. I forgot the DH. I completely forgot the DH. Sorry about that. And I can't. What'd you say?
I coughed.
And my utility player would be Brendan Donovan. I mean, Brendan Donovan has made some incredible plays for the Cardinals. He's not just non-existent at the plate either. He's taking good at bats. I'm going to go. I'm not going to name a DH just because that was my bad. I didn't study it the way that I should have. If I was going to name one, it'd be Shohei Ohtani to this point, but I won't set him in stone. I think that's probably one that he would probably sweep all season, though, if I was going for that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you with most of those. Just looking at some of the stat leaders, Luis Arias is leading all MLB in 398. So you got to throw him in there. Second base, Pete Alonso, definitely at first. Third base, I'm going to take Rafael Devers. Shortstop, I don't know. There's been a lot of guys play well. Dansby Swanson's played well. But Bo Bichette leads both leagues in hits, so I think you're right there. I got Ronald Acuna in the outfield. I think Bellinger in the outfield. I just think he's played awesome so far. A lot of people might not pick him, but I'm going to. Randy Arozarena is not top of some of these stats, but I'm throwing him out there because he's just been amazing. So that's my outfield. DH. Yeah, I mean, the obvious pick could be Shohei Ohtani, but you can't ignore what Nolan Gorman's done. And most of his starts have been from the DH spot and the production that he's provided for the Cardinals, who are just still trying to find their ways. So he's kind of my DH catcher. Definitely got to be Sean Murphy, like you said. Pitcher. I'm kind of like, the numbers don't lie kind of guy. You got Sonny Gray, who's got a 1.35 ERA through the first month, which is awesome. So I give him the nod on that because, he's leading the league. And then you got Clase as a closer. And I think that about rounds it out. So I think we're pretty much the same on a lot of spots. Like I said, numbers don't lie, so it's kind of hard to argue not putting, a lot of the league leaders at their positions.
Yeah.
on the All MLB team. So.
Yep, I completely agree. I think it's going to be one of those things, though, that a lot of these positions, first base, third base, maybe even second, are going to be kind of ever changing. I think your infield, I think I could see guys like Ronald Acuna, Yordan Alvarez popping up a lot throughout the season. Yordan might even pop up as the DH from time to, for a month or so. He played designated hitter a lot for the Houston Astros last year. And I think, too, as the season rolls on, you're going to look in as we go to naming these guys. And a lot of times you're going to be able to start to base it more off not just their play, but their team's play, kind of as, the relevancy of how they're of the stuff that they're doing. If you look here in July and you've got a guy like Goldschmidt who, he may have, 17, 18, home runs. The Cardinals are 20 games under 500. Well, those 20 home runs don't really matter a whole lot. Other than just personal numbers. And you and I both know that he's not a player that cares at all about personal numbers. He cares about those team numbers. It'll be interesting to see how that changes as time goes on.
Yeah, it's gonna fluctuate. Some of these guys are gonna fall off the list. Some of these guys are gonna stay on it. And some are gonna fall off, come back, fall off, come back. So it'll be interesting to see, who we chose and who we finish up with month to month, and just kind of see what the last All MLB team will look like. So, got a long season ahead. I think it's going to be a fun ride. Looking forward to some time off this summer and getting to watch some more baseball games.
No, I completely agree. Sorry, I was looking at my phone for a second.
Oh, you're fine.
But yeah, I think for tonight that about wraps it up. We should be back. Cross your fingers that we'll be back next week, later in the week. So that should be a little more organized, things like that. The last couple episodes haven't been near as organized as I'd like for them to be, but that'll get better as time goes on. And all of that stuff. I appreciate you getting on here again and doing this. I enjoy the heck out of it.
It's awesome, dude.
It's a highlight of my week, one of the biggest highlights of my week. So we will not keep our people too long, guys. Again, this has been the Walk Off Podcast. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Basically all of your podcast outlets. He's the principal, Jordan Ellsworth. And I'm Austin Bradley, and we appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.